They nailed her name to the board before the church bell rang noon. Clara Bell did not see them do it. She heard the hammer. 3 sharp strikes outside the jailhouse. By the time she stepped into the street, dust swirling around her boots, the notice was already flapping in the dry wind. Horse theft, Clara Bell. 1 blue roan mare bearing the Vale mark. The whole town read it before she did. If you have ever felt a street go quiet around you, you know that feeling. Heads turn. Conversations stop. Doors stay half open. Clara stood in the center of Arroyo Bend with Mercy's rope wrapped tight around her palm. The old blue roan lowered her head and breathed slow against Clara's wrist. Sheriff Amos Rawlins stepped down from the porch. His boots hit the boards heavy. "Clara," he said, loud enough for the street to hear, "you know why that's posted." She did not look at him. She looked at the mare. "I know what it says," she answered. "That does not make it true." Across the street, Gideon Vale leaned against the general store rail, dressed in black despite the heat. Silver spurs flashed at his heels. "That mare carries my mark," he said. "Everyone can see it." Mercy shifted. Clara turned her body, shielding the mare's left flank. "Do not point at her like she's yours," Clara said. A murmur moved through the town. Vale pushed off the rail and walked forward, slow, boots measured, voice smooth. "A poor name can grow poorer, Miss Bell." The words landed where he meant them to. Bell was already a name. Folks spoke softly. Burned ranch, vanished herd. A father buried before questions were answered. Clara tightened her grip on the rope until the hemp bit into her skin. "She was born at our place," Clara said. "Before you owned a single head." Sheriff Rawlins lifted a hand. "The mare goes to the livery until this is settled. She is not stolen." "Then prove it." The street waited. Nobody stepped forward. Nobody remembered how Thomas Bell once lent cattle through drought. Nobody remembered the Bell brand burned clean every spring. Clara could run. She knew the South Wash, the dry creek beds, the hidden springs in the hills. She could turn Mercy now and disappear before sunset. But running would make the notice true. So she stood. "I am not leaving her," she said. Rawlins' jaw tightened. "Not while that paper's nailed up." 2 of Vale's riders moved closer. Mercy's ears flicked back. Clara felt the tremor run through the mare's body before she saw it in her eyes. Something else was wrong. Not fear of strangers, something deeper. From across the street, a hammer stopped mid-strike. The forge went silent. Elias Pike stepped out into the light. Sleeves rolled, beard streaked gray with coal dust. "Hold a minute," he said. Vale's smile thinned. "This does not concern you." "I know brands," Elias replied. Rawlins looked at him. "You saying that's not Vale's mark? I'm saying I want a closer look before we hang a woman in the street without a rope." The town went still. Clara stared at him. Helping her would cost him. Vale's riders stiffened. Elias stepped toward Mercy slowly, careful not to spook her. He did not touch the scar. He only crouched and studied the burned shape on her flank. The V-mark looked crooked, dark, heavy, too heavy. Elias stood back up. "That burn sits strange," he said. Vale's voice sharpened. "A brand is a brand." "Not always," Elias answered. For 1 second, Clara saw something flicker across Gideon Vale's face. Not anger, not pride, something quick. Then it was gone. Sheriff Rawlins exhaled. "You have until sundown tomorrow," he said. "Bring proof, Clara, or the horse goes to Vale. And you answer for theft." The notice kept flapping behind him. Clara walked Mercy toward the livery as the town watched. Every step felt like walking through mud. By dusk, Mercy stood under the lean-to behind the hotel. Water bucket full, head turned away from it. She would not drink. "She'll founder if she keeps that up," Clara said. "She's under dispute," Rawlins replied. "She'll be fine." Boone Tallow entered the yard, pale face, sharp eyes. "Mr. Vale wants her checked," he said. Mercy lunged sideways before he touched her, hard enough. The rope snapped tight. Her eyes rolled white. Hooves struck dirt. Clara grabbed her neck. Easy, girl. Boone froze. Mercy trembled like she was back inside flame. Elias appeared at the gate. She knows him, he said. Horse knows many men, Boone snapped. Not like that, Clara whispered. The crowd shifted uneasy. Later, when the yard emptied and dusk settled purple over the roofs, Rawlins allowed Clara a few minutes alone. Mercy kept pulling toward the old tack shed behind the stalls. Clara followed. Inside, dust covered everything. Harness, cracked lantern, broken saddles. Then she saw it. A small child's saddle half buried under a feed sack. One stirrup missing. Horn split. Two carved letters near the edge. N.B. Noah Bell. Clara's breath stopped. She lifted it slow, hands shaking. Mercy had carried Noah out of the fire. Mercy had stood while smoke swallowed the Bell barn. Mercy had run through sparks, with a boy half conscious across her back. This was not a stolen horse. This was the last living witness. Behind her, a board creaked. Elias stood in the doorway. "You remember that saddle?" he said quietly. Clara nodded. Elias looked at Mercy's flank. "Then we best find out why Vale's mark is sitting on Bell hide." Outside, hoofbeats paused. Boone Tallow's pale face appeared between the boards. He saw the saddle in Clara's hands. Then he rode off fast. Clara held Noah's saddle against her chest. By sunrise, she would have one chance to either run with Mercy or walk her into the middle of Arroyo Bend and force the town to see what it had refused to see for years. Morning did not come gently. It came thin and sharp, like a blade pressed to the throat. Clara stood in Elias Pike's forge stable, with Mercy's rope in her hands, and Noah's broken saddle resting against a barrel. The rear gate stood unbarred. Beyond it, the alley led to the South Wash. One turn, one hard ride, and Arroyo Bend would shrink behind her. Mercy shifted. The clipped patch on her flank showed beneath the crooked V, pale lines trying to breathe through scar. Clara ran her thumb along the saddle horn. Noah would have told her to go. He had never liked fences. Elias watched her from beside the forge fire. "What would your father say?" he asked. Clara did not answer at once. She could almost see Thomas Bell standing by the old corral gate, dust on his boots, iron in his hand. A clean name cost more to keep than land. Clara lifted the rope. "We walk," she said. By the time the sun touched the jailhouse roof, the street was already gathering. Sheriff Rawlins stood in the center with his badge dull in the dust. Gideon Vale waited near the livery rail, black coat neat, silver spurs bright. Boone Tallow leaned beside him, pale and watching. Clara stepped forward with Mercy. Elias walked on the mare's left side, blocking the clipped patch until the right moment. The crowd pressed close. Men from the saloon, women from the store, boys barefoot in the dirt. Some faces curious, some eager, some already convinced. Rawlins raised a hand. "This is not a show." No one moved back. Clara felt Mercy trembling through the rope. She bent close to the mare's ear. "Almost done," she whispered. Elias stepped forward with a bucket of water and a clean cloth. "Let them see clear," he said. He wiped dust from the clipped hair. The crooked V-mark darkened under the damp hide. At first glance it looked whole, complete. Ownership burned plain. Gideon smiled faintly. "That's my iron," he said. Elias did not answer. He shifted a polished tin reflector from the forge, catching the sunlight and sending it flat across Mercy's flank. The light slid sideways. The V-mark changed. Under its left branch, a pale curve showed, faint buried, but there. A woman near the general store sucked in a breath. "That bend don't follow the V," someone muttered. Rawlins stepped closer. "Turn her a touch." Clara guided Mercy one slow step. The mare flinched but held. Now the lower curve showed clearer, and near the right edge of the scar, A small break sat exactly where the bell brand had once carried its notch. Clara's throat tightened. Elias pointed without touching. That line don't belong to Vale's iron. Gideon's voice sharpened. Scars pull strange as hide grows. Not in a pattern, Elias replied. The crowd shifted. Rollins removed his hat slowly. That's not a clean burn, he said. The words carried down the street. Gideon stepped forward. Mercy jerked back, at once, hard. Clara nearly lost her footing. Boone's jaw worked tight. She's reacting to noise, he said quickly. She's reacting to you, Elias answered. Rollins saw it. The whole town saw it. The old mare feared Boone like she feared flame. Gideon folded his hands behind his back. If this mark is so certain, he said smoothly, shave the whole flank. Take it down to the hide. Let's see every line. Clara went cold. Mercy pressed against her shoulder, ribs shaking. Shaving deep over scarred hide would hurt her. Gideon knew that. The choice lay sharp in the dirt. Hurt the horse to prove the truth, or refuse and look afraid. Clara rested her palm against Mercy's neck. The mare's heartbeat thudded hard beneath skin. She had carried Noah through smoke. She had stood through hunger and loss. She would not bleed for Gideon's pride. No, Clara said. Gideon spread his hands. Then there is nothing more to discuss. There is, Clara answered. She looked toward Elias. Bring a clean rod, cold. Shape it like the broken bell. Let them compare. The crowd stirred. An old drover near the saloon nodded. I remember Bell's mark. Half curve, small break. Elias crossed to the forge. No one stopped him. He returned with a bent iron rod, shaped plain and cold, never heated. This iron won't touch her, he said. Only show shape. Rollins nodded. Proceed. Elias held the curved rod inches from Mercy's flank. The pale scar followed the same bend. Not perfect, not fresh, but true. He lowered the rod to align the notch. It matched. A low sound moved through Arroyo Bend. Rollins stepped in close. That's the bell line, he said. Gideon's face hardened. It proves nothing. It proves your iron burned over something older, Rollins replied. Boone shifted toward the alley. Stay, the sheriff snapped. Boone froze. Clara stood still, Mercy leaning into her shoulder. For the first time, the town was not looking at her like a thief. They were looking at Gideon Vale. Rollins faced him. Until I see every horse in your remuda, no animal leaves town. You can't hold my stock, Gideon said. I can. Silence fell heavy. Clara felt it. Something had cracked. But the street was not done yet. Because from the back pen of the livery, 3 Vale horses stood watching. And when the sheriff turned toward them, Boone Tallow's face lost all color. The back pen gate creaked open. 3 Vale horses stood inside, ribs moving fast, eyes rolling white. The bay pressed against the rail. The sorrel circled tight. The black horse stood still, torn ear twitching, watching Boone Tallow. Sheriff Rollins stepped through the gate himself. Bring the bay forward. Boone did not move. Gideon's voice cut low. This is foolish. Rollins did not look at him. Help me end it. Elias entered slow, palm flat, voice steady the way a man speaks before lifting a hoof. The bay shied, then stilled. He wiped dust from the flank. The crooked V mark showed, clean at first glance, but no one trusted first glances now. Elias lifted the tin reflector again. Light slid across the hide. Under the V, a pale curve surfaced. Not Mercy's exact line, but the same broken bend. A murmur spread through the crowd. Rollins bent close. That's another underburn, he said. Gideon snapped. Range stock carries scars. Not scars shaped like iron, Elias answered. The sorrel came next. This one fought the rope, striking dirt with sharp front hooves. Clara felt Mercy stiffen beside her. Easy, she whispered. Elias wiped the sorrel's flank. The V-mark here was wider, cruder. As if burned in haste, under it, 2 pale lines crossed. One bent low. One carried a faint break near the edge. Mrs. Briggs covered her mouth. An old drover removed his hat. The street did not feel the same anymore. It felt smaller, closer. The black horse stood last. Boone stepped forward quick. "That one throws kicks." Rawlins' voice cracked sharp. "Stay where you are." Boone froze. Elias approached the black horse. The animal trembled but did not strike. When the cloth passed over the brand, the crowd leaned forward as one body. The V-mark had been burned deep, too deep. But Hyde remembers. Under the harsh lines, the broken bell curve pushed through pale and stubborn. The small notch sat clear, like a name carved into wood that fire could not erase. Clara felt the weight of it settle inside her. Mercy had been the first voice. These three were the answer. Rawlins stepped back into the open. He looked at the crowd, then at Gideon Vale. "Where did you get these horses?" Gideon's jaw tightened. "Trades, auctions, range deals. You have papers? You have no right to my business." Rawlins' gaze hardened. "I have 3 horses carrying bell lines under your mark." Boone shifted toward his saddle. "Do not try it," Rawlins said. Boone stopped. The town watched, and for once no one looked away. Rawlins faced Gideon again. "Until every horse in your outfit is inspected, your stock stays under town hold." "You will regret this," Gideon said quietly. "I regret not looking sooner," Rawlins replied. "That did it." Something moved through Arroyo Bend. Mr. Briggs stepped forward. "I've got 2 empty stalls." The drover near the saloon said, "I know the bell mark. I'll help read." Reverend Cole removed his hat. "The churchyard has shade." Not everyone stepped. Some still stood silent. But enough moved that Gideon Vale's power thinned in the dust. By sunset, 6 more Vale horses stood in town pens. 4 carried burned-over bell lines. Rawlins ordered riders to Vale's outer range. Boone was disarmed without a shot fired. Gideon stood in front of the jailhouse as the sun dropped red behind him. No cheers, no applause, just the sound of boots on dirt and horses shifting in their stalls. Clara led Mercy toward the edge of town. The old mare walked slow, tired but steady. Elias came beside her, holding Noah's broken saddle. "Where you want this?" he asked. Clara looked at it long. "Not hidden," she said. "Hang it where it can be seen." The next morning, Rawlins rode out to the burned bell place with 2 men and a wagon. Boards were stacked. Fence pulled straight. The old trough dug clear. From the back of the wagon, the sheriff lifted something wrapped in canvas. He handed it to Clara without ceremony. She unfolded it. The broken bell branding iron lay inside. Blackened. Whole, he removed his hat. "I was wrong." "Yes," Clara answered. He nodded once. "I'll say it in town." "That matters," she said. He mounted and rode back without another word. Weeks passed. Rain came late but steady. The trough filled. Bell horses grazed again near the Cottonwood Wash. Gideon Vale's ranch fell under seizure. Men who once tipped hats to Silver Spurs now spoke careful when Clara rode by. One bright morning, Mercy stepped from shade with a new foal wobbling at her side. Thin legs, dark mane, a white star on its forehead. Clara laughed, the sound surprising her own ears. Elias stood by the new fence rail, wiping his hands on his apron. "Where do you want the iron?" Clara lifted the broken bell brand. She climbed onto the lower rail. Dust clung to her skirt. She hung the iron high above the trough. Not hidden, not buried. The foal lowered its nose to the clear water. Ripples widened across the surface. Clara stood, watching them spread. Behind her, the old burned house was only frame and shadow. Ahead of her, the pasture held new grass. Mercy pressed her nose into Clara's shoulder. The bell name had not been saved by shouting. It had been saved because one old mare carried the truth. And Clara Bell had chosen to stand beside it when the town was watching.